Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Fandalorian Club here on Apocalypse Movies, as we are here for yet again some more Star Wars. This time, the second episode of the Book of Boba Fett, titled "Tribes Tatooine." An absolutely incredible episode, but we're going to be diving into the specifics here today, as we usually do on a weekly basis on these Star Wars reviews. And today, I'm joined by one Brian Avellino and one Gio Ramos making his return to the Fando. Gio, let's start with you, man. How you doing?
I'm good. I had a good day at work, and better way to cap it off than back at Fandalorian Club with the two Star Wars experts who are pretty much gonna help me completely understand what I just saw. And what I just saw was a bunch of awesomeness. So I can't wait to talk about it.
Fair enough. And Brian, how about you, man?
Doing good. I've been waiting. Not very often am I like, we have to wait till then to talk about something. And this was an episode that I was like, all right, come on. I need to talk about this with someone out loud.
This is when we learn that doing it the day after the release, just to kind of get a break from everybody else who does it, it's a long waiting period for us.
Yeah.
Because I know that Brian texted me super early yesterday morning, but I was up at like 4 a.m. on yesterday morning, so I watched it super early. So I've been sitting on this for a while.
Wow.
And I'm sure Gio, you probably watched it. I think you put it on Twitter. You watched it yesterday as well too.
I did, yes.
Yeah. So it's been a little bit for us, but it makes us that much more excited to be here and discuss things.
I know. Before we get to see if you put your tweet out that you always do, your tweet about an episode, and I didn't see it, and I'm like, yeah, I haven't watched this yet, and that's why I text you, and you were like, nope, watched it at 4. Okay.
Yeah, I was up super early yesterday morning for some reason, but no. So because we do have a lot to talk about. This was a full length episode. It was 50 minutes, near 50 minutes. It was a full TV typical episode, not the half hour, 35-minute stuff that sometimes we get from Star Wars and Marvel. So there's a lot to talk about today. But before we get into specifics, I want to hear everyone's kind of general thoughts, opinions, reactions, comparisons, maybe even to the first episode, how you felt about it. I'll start with you, Brown. I'll go right back to you. What did you think of this one?
Oh, I mean, this annihilates the first one, in my opinion. And then I think it's one of the best episodes of Star Wars TV, period. Mandalorian included. I think this episode was freaking phenomenal. Did not stop being good from the second it started to the second it ended. And the thing that I love about it the most is that I don't know who the heck this person is that directed it, but I bet you they're going to be back for a lot of Star Wars stuff moving forward.
Yeah, no, I agree. It was very, very balanced, well-paced, like all technical stuff that we talk about with like movies, stuff like that. All of it felt just very well done. The action was a blast. The idea of the train sequence and everything was very, very smart on their part. And then everything building in the present day stuff is stuff that we're going to be getting into that I'm very, very excited to talk about. But Gio, what about you, man? Instant, because I believe you watched them back to back, right?
That's right. I had a double feature. I
genius move.
Didn't get to what?
I think that was a genius move. I wish I would have been able to do that.
Yeah, because I'll say this real quick about the first episode. While it started off really strong with a whole lot of fan service, I just felt that it didn't move enough. But then I had to remind myself, okay, this is like 6 or 7 episodes. Okay, like it'll get there. And by episode 2, it got there and it kept going, man. This episode was just crazy. It just, like Brian said, from start to finish. I got some serious heist vibes with what Boba and the Tuskens were doing in this episode with the train. And somebody said Dances with Wolves with this episode where
Certain aspects, especially the very end of it. Yes.
right. Yeah, totally.
Mhm.
And I said this in my tweet, but it got me to care and be invested in Tusken Raiders now. Because before that, at least for myself, maybe you guys in different, whether it's comics or cartoons or whatnot, but for myself, I've only known them as just background characters who are just a thorn on the side, and like to cause trouble every now and then. But now it's like going forward, I want to see more of the Tusken Raiders anytime they're on screen. My eyes, go big instead of just like, huh, okay, whatever. That's what this episode did, and that's the beauty of shows on streaming service. You can take your time and give, some attention, spotlight to other things besides the main characters. So
Yeah, we're going to be getting to the Tusken Raiders because they've been transformed from, Raiders from the prequels into the sign language portion that we saw in The Mandalorian to now what we're seeing now. And I thought this was very appropriate too because of the whole thing that happened in the past. Gio, this is probably why you love this episode so much. It was definitely the Fett
and the Furious.
100%.
I like that.
Even I think Curtis said Tuskens of Anarchy, Sons of Anarchy with the bikes and everything.
Yeah.
Very, very similar. A lot of things that they're pulling from. And it's definitely that Robert Rodriguez background, right? He's pulling from certain aspects of stuff that he's very good at, taking the script that Jon Favreau developed and just kind of building on it. But yeah, let's talk about this. Is there anything specific that we want to start with, or do we want to go chronologically? What are we thinking, guys?
I mean, all I can think about are the Tusken Raiders. And
okay, so let's save them
Okay.
because they're kind of the biggest thing of the show that I think we'll probably talk about today. Let's start with the beginning of the episode, and then we can jump around if we want to. The beginning of the episode, we see Fennec Shand pick up from last week where she's bringing the assassin back to the palace.
Right.
And they find some information about the assassin. Oh my god, why am I blanking on the group all of a sudden? Wind
Something. Nightwind.
Nightwind. Thank you. And so we see this assassin. He's not speaking. They throw him in the pit, the Rancor pit. And I don't know about you guys, but for a second I go, wait a second. Could there actually
I did for a second. Yeah.
Well, because we
Right.
have heard for a long time that Jabba didn't just have Rancors. So I was curious if another kind of beast was going to pop up. But it's a very good tactic for them to use, nothing be down there, and then they obviously are like, oh, or the guy's like, okay, no, I'm going to talk now because I don't want to die. So they get some information from him. Before we jump into the mayor stuff, because that's what came next, what did you guys think about this whole sequence, the opening of the episode, the Rancor pit, all that stuff?
Oh, I loved it. I mean, it was genius because, like I said, I was like, oh, there is a Rancor. Like, I was like, I assumed like everyone else. It was like, okay, well, Rancor's dead. There's nothing in there. And I was like, oh my God, there is one. Holy crap. And nothing. I would have been the same way. Okay, I'll tell you everything. Yeah. So, yeah, I love good. And they're just sitting there laughing too. They're like, still works.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. It almost made me respect the warriors of Nightwind or assassins until he finally caved and gave some information, because I'm like thinking, oh, this guy's not gonna talk at all, even if a Rancor is on the way. It brought me back to Inglorious Bastards, where the German was just standing there as the bear Jew slowly came out.
Oh,
And, like,
yeah.
not gonna talk at all. But no,
Yeah.
he talked, and it was very very clever of Boba Fett. That's those are things that give him an edge over everyone else, is that he can find different methods other than what's already been done before, ruling by fear or whatever. So
Yeah, it's that bounty hunter mentality, right? Even though he's not technically a bounty hunter anymore, or he doesn't like to think that he is at the moment, he still uses a little bit of their methods, and that kind of transfers
Crime
into the
lord.
next scene. Yeah, he's now a crime lord. That transfers into the next scene. We finally get to meet the mayor, the Ithorian that we've been looking forward to seeing the entire time since the trailers, and we learn from the assassin that the mayor did hire him, or them, I should say, and what happened in Mos Espa in the first episode. And when they go to meet the mayor, there's a big long conversation, but essentially what it boils down to is Boba Fett is claiming that, hey, you're sending people after me. That's not how this is going to work. The Ithorian mayor, and I'm forgetting his name. Oh my god, is it Mosk Shaiz? I want to say Mosk Shaiz. I think his name is. I could be wrong.
Mock.
Mock Shaiz. Mock Shaiz. And essentially what he says is like, he's essentially saying, hey, I thought you were just a bounty hunter. You know, I didn't like you're not a crime lord. Like you're known as the bounty hunter. And then we come to learn that, well, from what he's saying anyway, that he isn't the one that hired them. And that leads to the next big reveal, which we'll get to. But let's talk about this mayor scene for just a quick sec before we get to the big thing of the episode. Gio, I'll go right back to you. What did you think about everything that happened with the mayor, that kind of sequence with the guards, the way that the mayor talked, because he's an alien species, the Ithorian. What did you think about all that?
the guards are pretty effective. In fact, they just headshot, no scoped the dude who
I was not expecting that, by the way. Not at all.
A prisoner, got rid of him, and then ended up paying him to try and take, the spotlight off of them. I still don't trust them. There's something going on, in my opinion. It's just vibes. I got nothing to back that on. But I think I don't know. There's a whole lot of tension there, because at first you're supposed to get tribute. Well, now I'm giving you tribute and whatnot. It's just like there's a whole lot of tension going on. So it's pretty cool.
It's very wishy-washy at this moment. There's still a lot of things to be revealed, like who is he actually working for? Does he really have power? I think we can kind of connect the dots a little bit more after this episode. But I very much enjoyed, because we've seen Ithorians before, but we haven't seen them up close like this and like really inside the story. We have in the Clone Wars, and that's very easy because it's animation. I very much enjoyed seeing the Ithorian operate, and kind of how it went from his language to basic, and the machinery that was being used to help in that way. It's a very cool aspect that they did, and I'm not 100% sure if it was practical or not. It looked practical, but I won't 100% say it was. I think that it was a very effective tactic, though, the way that it was all done. And Brian, I'm sure you were very excited because you're a big Ithorian guy.
Those are my favorite aliens in the Star Wars universe. Well, not counting Chiss. But yeah, I was very excited because Ithorians are always the like look cool in the background characters. And they're arguably like the weirdest looking of the alien species. At least one of top 3.
There's a lot of weird looking.
Yeah, there are some weird ones, but
think about the lips in Return of the Jedi.
Yeah. But yeah, I was so excited. He's got big old feet. And that was the first thing I looked at, was how if he was gonna talk. And he talks, he's got his side flap.
Yeah, it's like all the way like back here.
So their mouth,
his head is up here, and the mouth is like way back here.
Yeah, their mouths go like this all the way back, but like the part that speaks is here, and then they're like their little generator thing is translating it. I loved it. Give me aliens. That's what makes Star Wars so cool. I love seeing the Trandoshans, even if they're just around. I love seeing Ithorians. We've seen so many humans. Put more aliens. I love seeing the aliens. And yeah, I don't trust the mayor for Ish. I'm sure he's being paid off by
twins.
The twins. but because I mean, there's never been a really a successful like political position in a big city that other than like Palpatine, which he stole the power. So like, yeah, let's be honest. Like, there's always a crime lord running a mayor or a senator or something like that. So
Yeah, and I think after this episode, it became more clear to me that both the mayor and the woman who owns the casino both work for the twins.
probably
I that's what I'm kind of leaning towards. I also did want to mention the mayor's right hand man. That little scene where Boba just charges right in. Very very cool. Very on brand with that character. Gio, you weren't here last. Gio, you weren't here last week, and I want to hear your thoughts on that character real quick before we move on. The gentleman who came to the palace looking for tribute from Boba for the mayor, and then we saw him again this episode. Do you like that character, or do you think he's too over the top? What are your thoughts on him?
I like him because he's very passive. You know, he won't do any sort of confrontation, but he I don't know. He just do I like him? Yeah. I love the dialogue that he speaks and you know, the way he delivers it and whatnot.
Mannerisms.
I think it's gonna get to a point though where Fennec will
I think he's gonna die.
Yeah,
Major
yeah,
Domo. That was what it was.
Major Domo. Thank you. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think he's.
Thank you, John.
I think he's biting the dust hard.
Mhm.
Who, the Major Domo?
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
I think
For
he's gonna.
sure.
I think he's gonna be. And I think Gio's right. I think it's gonna be Fennec that does it. 100%.
I mean, she's bloodthirsty. She hasn't had her drink blood in 2 episodes. I mean, I guess she's shot a bunch of people. But yeah. Oh,
Well,
no.
she hasn't. But honestly, she hasn't done a whole lot because there hasn't been a whole lot going on in the main timeline. A lot of it has been focusing a little bit on the past, which we will get to. Everybody, I promise you.
Can I just say one thing? I loved
ahead.
the fact that it was like the DMV outside the mayor's office.
Yep.
And you're gonna make Boba Fett like, do you have an appointment? Absolutely not. And he just goes through. Like, that made me laugh so hard. I was just like, oh my god. Like, because let's be honest, this is like the most we've ever seen a successful like political, like, do you have an appointment? The mayor, like actual like what you would see. And he's just like, absolutely not. And just goes straight through. I'm sorry. He pushed his way like
So that leads us to the final kind of present day scene that we get, and it's the biggest one that we can see. Once they leave the casino, or they're at the casino, excuse me. And I always forget the woman's name. I don't have the name off the top of my head. I have to get used to all these new names. But she basically says, have you not heard? And in the background, we can hear that boof, boof, boof.
Mhm.
And walk outside. Boba, Fennec, they're there, and around the corner comes 2 Hutts, the twins. 2 Hutts come round and around on their litter, and those people look like they're struggling. First of all, they look like
there needed to be more people to carry those 2 guys.
Yeah, they're not having a good time carrying those Hutts around. But not only do we see 2 Hutts, for us who read the comic books, we see Black Krrsantan is officially part of live action Star Wars, a Wookiee bounty hunter who has plenty of history with Boba Fett, plenty of history with Obi-Wan Kenobi, plenty of history with Dr. Aphra. It's a big shock, a character that we never expected to see in live action, but the perfect pull from comic books to live action. And what a great role, great foil eventually for Boba to face, because they are 1000% going off against each other. 1000% at some point. I want to go to Gio first and I want to open up the discussion on this, because this is obviously a big part of present day Boba and what's going to be happening, right? It's now his claim for the throne against the Hutt's claim for the throne. And it's all going to come down to who wants it more, whose side you're on, just battling it out. Obviously, the Hutts have ruled for a very, very long time. The question is, why didn't they do it over the past 5 years? And what is Boba going to be able to do to stop them from getting it? And he's going to have to face someone like Black Krrsantan to be able to keep that. But Gio, you don't really have any history of Black Krrsantan. The thoughts on the Hutt's arrival, their meaning to all of this. What did you think about this kind of like big reveal that happened?
It was definitely a grand entrance. And you got the music, you got the the protection, the guard and whatnot. And speaking of that guard, man, I have no idea who he was. You guys are filling me in as we are talking about it, but I knew he had to be somebody. I'm like, whoa, like,
do you want a little history lesson?
Sure.
So
for all the viewers out there and myself.
So everyone, and rightfully so, I think in Star Wars Twitter right now is being very respectful. Everyone's been saying BK.
Except for Andy.
Yeah, I know, except for Andy. Andy blew it up on Twitter. But it's keeping the spoilers away for maybe someone who hasn't watched it. But you can pretty much say it now because the episode's been out for a while. So his name is Black Krrsantan. He is a bounty hunter, and he's been around for a very, very long time. The first time we ever actually saw him, he was partnered up with Boba Fett. That was the first time we ever saw him.
Wow.
It was right after A New Hope. So when Marvel first did their run of comics, once they got a hold of Star Wars, they did a bunch of stuff in between A New Hope and The Empire Strikes Back. And that's when we first saw him. It was a storyline of essentially looking for Luke Skywalker after he blew up the Death Star. It was kind of like the story that spun off a lot of different stories. And we saw Boba and Black Krrsantan teamed up together. Another point in the comic books, we actually saw him facing off against Obi-Wan Kenobi. And here's the big deal about this. Obi-Wan put the scar over his eye with his lightsaber.
Ooh.
That's a big key thing because of what could possibly happen in the Obi-Wan Kenobi series, if that story will actually ever be told, if they'll do a flashback with Krrsantan in this show. Either way, he's had a lot of run-ins with a lot of characters. Most recently, and I'm not all the way caught up, but from what I understand and what I know from what I've read, the last time that we saw him is when he was teamed up with Dr. Aphra for a very long time. And they had a very tumultuous. That's a bad
tumultuous.
Word. I can't say that word. Very bad relationship. And they were always kind of butting heads. And then he kind of just like drifted off. And that's the last time I saw him. Wow. But he's a big, badass, vulgar, aggressive Wookiee. Pretty much the opposite of what Chewbacca is.
Banished from Kashyyyk.
Yeah. Thank you. That's another good addition. So
banished.
He has a history with Boba, so they know each other. Which he very well could know Fennec as well, because I mean the bounty hunters run in the same circle, right? They run around the same circle, but the fact that he's been operating as a bounty hunter for this long, it's like close to 10 years, if that. I mean, the dude's got to seen some stuff. He's had to have seen some stuff.
And Wookiees can live for a while too, so.
Well, yeah, I mean, Chewbacca was 200 years old in or 150 years old in Solo,
Yeah.
So what basically, Gio, the dude is a badass.
Yeah.
I'm getting like U.S. agent type of vibes from him.
Oh goodness.
I wouldn't even. He's pure like brutal. U.S. agent sometimes has a conscience. This guy does not.
Okay, here's a comparison. Without the superpowers, Gio, you can think of him as like a Black Adam type.
Oh, okay. So he kind of just does
like
things.
Shazam,
Well, he's
like
a bounty
Shazam
hunter,
is Chewie, right? Chewie's Shazam, nicer, heroic, does things for the necessary, and Krrsantan is like, nah, bro, I'm getting what's mine.
Yeah, he likes blood and money.
Yeah,
yeah.
I want to see more. Of him.
Not to mention he's literally Black Krrsantan. So there you go. I mean, dude, the dude's got a spiked shoulder pad. Like, come on.
Yeah. Badass.
I cannot wait to see more of him. Oh,
I'm
so excited.
Gasped.
I couldn't gasp because it was 4 a.m., but my mouth hit the floor.
I hit the floor. Because I don't stay up. I just wake up a little bit earlier to watch it. So I'm sitting in bed watching it, and I'm already like, oh my God, there's Hutts. And then he comes around that corner, and I went, oh, no. Like, I'm like looking around for someone to react with me. Like, no.
I couldn't believe it. Like, when he popped up, I said, wait, there's no way that's Krrsantan. Like, there's no possible way there's Krrsantan.
I was just, I thought the same thing. I was like, there's no way they brought this guy in here. And I was like, but there's no way it could be anyone else. There's no one. Like, you're not going to just happen to have a black Wookiee with the same
Spiked
exact shoulder pads as him. Like, there's no way. And so that's when I waited and I texted Jake and I was like, I checked to see if he was on Twitter. I was like, I need to say something to
So Brian texted me. He goes, let me know when you watch the episode. I responded. I go, I did at 4 a.m. Then I responded immediately back in all caps. I said, Krrsantan! And he knew exactly what. It's just.
It's funny because, like, it never crossed my mind a character like this could come from anything. Well, shouldn't say couldn't come from anything. That would come from anything other than Dr. Aphra. Just because that's the most recent, the most, I guess, well-known if you're going canon for him. But him, I love the fact that they are utilizing amazing comic and book characters is so awesome because it makes us that read the comics and books, it gives it that much more worth to what we're spending our time doing. Because, I mean, you get to picture all these like awesome things in your head from a book. Like you're creating the story and the vision in your head. Comic book, you just kind of get to see it on paper. But when you see one of those people jump from a page to a live action, it does something else. Like, and
it's also, they're pulling people who, like for Geo, like we're freaking out over it, but for him, it's a character that they can put on screen without having to know the history. Like, because they're going to create the history, right? Like, they could have easily done Dengar, Bosk, IG-88, any of those major bounty hunters, but they went with someone that they can present a brand new audience to on top of those who have read him in the comic books. Because if we would have seen Bosk, right, we'd have been like, oh crap, everyone knows who Bosk is. It would have been freaking out. But the fact that they did someone like Krrsantan knows that not only are they paying attention, but they want to be able to show audiences these characters in these comic books that people have been reading for a couple of years now, and they're really liking and showing that they can pop up outside of just those pages. The same thing happened with Cobb Vanth, right? Yeah. He was in a small part of the Aftermath trilogy, and all of a sudden, people want to be freaking Cobb Vanth for cosplay all the time. Like, he's just a character that people love, and that's the same thing that's going to happen with Krrsantan. So it's a perfect addition. It's like Brian said, it's nothing in our, like, we would have never thought of that, but it is such a perfect choice to do because they have history. He's a very forceful being when it comes to action and stuff like that. And you can bring in a completely new audience to a character that people have not been recognizing, at the mass audience anyway, outside of the book readers.
Not to mention, we've never seen a bad Wookiee.
No.
Like,
not in live action.
That's what I meant. In live action. Like, people, Wookiees to people that are just watching movies and stuff are like, oh, Wookiee is like, my sister's going to immediately probably think that's a good guy watching that because it's a Wookiee.
I cannot wait to buy a pop figure of Krrsantan. I cannot.
There are moments that you're gonna remember, like from when you first watched. Seeing a character like that come on, you're just like, oh,
super pumped!
My God, yeah.
All right, real quick before we move on, we have a super chat here from Mr. Kyle Beckworth. Thank you, Kyle. Happy New Year! Loved this episode. Black Krrsantan looks so menacing. Yeah, he does. I bet Boba will have to fight him. Absolutely loving these reviews. Thank you, Kyle.
Thanks, Kyle.
We were able to meet Kyle last month at Spectacular, and he's a great guy. So thank you so much, Kyle. We appreciate it. All right, so let's move on from present day stuff and let's get into all of the stuff that happened in the flashbacks, because the rest of the episode actually did happen in flashbacks. A lot of stuff happened in that time period. Thankfully, they took enough time to tell this story because it was extremely important as to what was happening through all of it. And we'll get into the details in certain aspects and scenes. But essentially what happened is Boba went through a complete period of trials to become one of them. He is now one of the Tusken Raiders by the end of the episode. We see him in the garbs that we saw him in when we met him in The Mandalorian.
Yes.
Which is, I love that outfit. I loved the process of how he got that and how like spiritual and ritual it really was, because that's what it should be. That's exactly what it should be, right? And I see a lot of people talking about it online about certain cultures that were kind of planted through things that were happening with these characters in this episode. We see a Tashi Station cameo. We see Cammy and Fixer from the A New Hope deleted scene. A lot of things were happening in this episode. Again, great fan service, not like super over the top, but just the perfect amount of it. And then we see the Pikes with their spice, and they were the foils. And I know Brian's very excited about that because we actually got to see their faces as well.
First live action
cool.
Pike face.
Yeah, very, very cool. But Gio, anything specific that you want to talk about with the flashbacks? Any one moment, something you really like, something maybe you have questions about? What do you got?
I mean, as far as like a moment I thought was really fun, and you can tell that, God, what's Tamira Morrison?
Yeah.
Was having a lot of fun with this part
Just
in particular.
Call him Temtem.
Temtem. I always want to say Terramana. I'm like, I can't say it. But when he tries teaching them how to ride the speeders,
like a bantha.
He's like, he did. I
like
saw the
bantha.
GIF that
the GIF I
retweeted. Yeah. Well, that was so much fun. It was just, like, I don't know. It was just because they're trying to take the parts and everything and destroy it. And they're like, no, I will teach you. And all of a sudden, you're starting to see from the head Tusken dude's eyes that
chieftain.
Yeah, this guy has some worth.
Yeah,
it's a two-way street. He's learning from us and we're learning from him. And I felt bad for the one Tusken who kept trying to jump from one speeder to another. And
do you think that was the same Tusken? You think it was the same Tusken?
Yes,
probably. He just ate it every time.
He got ran over at one point, right? He fell off and one of the bikes did like a little bump.
Something. Poor guys.
Yeah, probably. I'm like, oh man. But when he actually nailed it, that was a all right moment. It was just so much fun. So.
No, I agree with you. I think that was it also shows Boba kind of wanting to not necessarily like change, but adjust things and kind of move on from certain things. And he's not in the bounty hunting ways, right? And he's helping people who are helping him. And maybe it is having to change his ways a little bit, but I thought it was a lot of fun. It obviously was for a reason for what was happening. It felt very Mandalorian-esque, right? Because in Mandalorian, for a lot of the episodes, we see like one job, one episode, right? He goes to this and he does that, or he learns something and he does on that episode. And it is very kind of in that format when we see him teaching. And then it obviously comes down to the very end with the train fight. But it also shows that, they don't have to be just these raiders who are living off of the lands. They can adapt and adjust and be more than what they have been for the last however long. They can use the speeders, and they're capable of doing things like that. Like when we saw him make the staff, right? Like that's extremely important. But now they have the ability to do something like speeders because they know how to do it. We even saw one of the raiders actually working on the bike with some tools at one point, and they're learning and they're adapting.
Mm-hmm.
And Boba is bringing that into the camp just as much as the camp is giving back to him with certain ideals that he hasn't had his entire life, right? It's Boba for the longest time has been trying. Ultimately, the character has always wanted a family, right? We saw that in the Clone Wars when he had his little bounty hunting squad. He was part of a small kids clone group at one point. He's always trying to find a place, a home, and this seems like it's the home that he's been searching for so long for. And now he wants to get back to him. He's had plenty of chances to walk off and leave and do his thing, but he's always found his way back, and he's always given back, which I very much appreciate seeing because it's helping a lot of characters. And like Gio said earlier, it's making the Tusken Raiders a lot more important. They're not just these indigenous people that shoot from the cliffside at pod racers or whatever it may be. They are very important. They should be looked at a lot differently, and this show is doing a great job of doing that.
Yeah. It's, to me, I think this is some of the most important stuff. It is, I don't want to say humanizing, but
I can't help this comment.
Yeah. Well, thankfully these three people respect a movie like Jackass, like my other two.
A Tusken Raider jackass. Oh my God.
I love the fact that we are taking what people consider savages.
That's the word I've been looking for the whole time.
Savages, good one.
Yeah.
These savage things that all they do is kill for sport and all this, and it's showing no, they are people. People, we don't know what they really look like underneath, but they're just another group of aliens. Their home just happens to be the middle of the desert. They're not these savage people. Like when the train went by, they wanted no business with the train.
Yeah.
They did not want to attack it. They did not want to try to steal what was on the train. They weren't even the first people to attack. The Pikes were the first people to attack the Tuskens. The Tuskens were defending themselves from getting attacked. And we saw that after we saw them all on the ground dead. Like they were upset. They know that this thing just attacks them. And the more and more, every time we see a Tusken, we've learned more and more and humanized them to these just normal beings. They are not these savage monsters that we thought they were from A New Hope, where they attacked Luke. They have culture. They have history. They have ancestors. I mean,
well, they're the people of Tatooine.
Exactly.
Like, they are, if like Tatooine, we look at Tatooine, obviously like Mos Eisley, Mos Espa, but when we think of Tatooine, it is the Tusken Raiders.
Right.
Yeah.
Plain and simple.
It is. And Boba says something along that lines. The sands are your home.
Yeah,
exactly.
Right. Yeah. The Dune Sea is yours or something.
Yeah, your birthright. Yeah. And he, by the end of it, has become part of their tribe, their gang, if you will. Like, we're going to be seeing the Trandoshan gangs, like their whole clique. I'm sure we're going to be seeing other types of ones. His army, if you will, is going to be the Tuskens. He is a part of that family, if you will. I just love it because for 30 plus years, we've seen the Tuskens as just these things that come in, they beat you, they torture you like they did. But not all Tuskens are like
Skywalker.
That. Yeah.
Well, and I was just going to say, it makes you look at what Anakin did in a lot different, a different light. Like, obviously there's very different types of Tusken Raiders, right? Like there's the type that we see in the Phantom Menace where they're shooting down pod racers. But then there's these types where they're just trying to make a life for themselves. And they're staying in as a group. And just like there is for us, there's different types of groups and people out there. And we are seeing what the Tusken Raiders really are, what they're born to be. And some are born into a different tribe, a different style of being a Tusken. But it's making Star Wars fans and just fans in general respect who they are a lot more than, I mean, the first time we saw them, they chopped up 3PO, like, right? They knocked out Luke and like that. I mean, that, and from there on out, they've just been savages to the land. This and The Mandalorian has made us look at them in a very different light, as they should be. They should be respected a lot more. And I actually really like it because the indigenous side of Star Wars needs to kind of be put to light a little bit. And this is definitely helping it.
Yeah. I mean, they even have rituals, vision quests, like
Yeah.
That's
a
something I want
right.
to talk about, by the way. I want to talk about that.
Yeah, a right. He was given a sacred Tuscan right. He earned that, to which he then got to do the quest to become truly a part of them. Yeah.
John, you got a point there, John. You got
Yeah. I mean, who knows? It's funny because maybe there was a reason they shot at the pod racers. Maybe the sounds, for all we know,
very
disrupted
possible.
their way of life or something. I mean, granted, every time they hit it, they celebrate. So maybe they were just having fun. But like we don't know. I mean, they're, like we said, they're not. There's a reason sometimes that they're doing certain things. I mean, they communicate in sign language. They have families and stuff. My heart broke when they were doing like the burial. Although I did kind of laugh because the Tuscan, like, Boba's carrying him and it's like very sweet. And the chief or whoever takes him and he just tosses him like this. Like, it wasn't even like a place down or anything. He literally hucks the bodies. That made me laugh. But yeah, no, I mean, they're important. They're an important part to Star Wars.
Let's talk about the
Vision Quest.
I guess the Vision Quest is the best way of saying it. Very cool editing aspect to all of this because there's a lot of pieces flying in and out of what's happening here. Boba's sent off to this tree in the middle of the Dune Sea.
Ugh,
and
it's a lizard. Oh.
Yeah, well, and the lizard aspect was wild.
I literally thought he was just gonna have like this lizard pet from now on.
Oh my god, that was
nope.
That looks
right up the nose.
That's like some Matrix stuff, right?
Yeah.
Where that's
the thing that goes inside their belly.
Yeah. That's just no, but and it comes back out like anyway.
Yeah.
But we see him walking the Dune Sea to this tree, and along the way, it's some extremely great editing of him in his old suit with the white underneath from like Empire and Return of the Jedi. We see young Boba again back on Kamino. We see him back in the Sarlacc pit. And then we see him in the tree, and as the branches are kind of closing in on him, there's a lot of different meanings that are happening here. Ultimately, what happens is he brings the branch back with him. That branch becomes his gaffy stick, and he is put through a ritual of making that gaffy stick on his own. Very cool thing here. Also, a nice little Easter egg. The setting of where they made the gaffy stick, that's actually originally made Ralph McQuarrie concept art from the original film. That was actually never used, which is very, very cool. But yeah, so we can talk about the gaffy stick, kind of him making it and stuff, but I want to focus a little bit more on the vision side of it all. The tree, kind of what it means, the hidden meaning behind that whole sequence, because I have a lot of thoughts on it. Gio, what about you, man? You saw this scene kind of play out. What does this mean to Boba Fett as a character?
To be honest, I still don't kind of know what it means, but I'm gonna give it a shot. I think there's some sort of symbolic / metaphor thing going on with Boba Fett. Like, we see all the visions and whatnot of big events of his life, whether it's him on Kamino, like you said, or in the Sarlacc pit or whatever. And I think the tree kind of wrapping the branches around him is like him becoming a prisoner of his past. And
that's exactly what I think it is.
Oh, my bad.
No. I'm agreeing with you. That's good.
And
his past is suffocating him.
Yeah, exactly. And he had to break out from it, like he did the Sarlacc pit, and just in a way, it was like a cleanse, and a fresh start and whatnot. And that was his big test. Was pretty much returning to them with the branch. I'm sure there's a name for it. And I just thought the whole thing was just beautiful. I was completely floored. I was like, what am I watching? Are we sure this is Star Wars? Because I never thought
it definitely didn't feel Star Wars.
Yeah, I didn't think they could go to this place, but they did. And kudos to everyone, the writers, producers, director. I wanted to say Tamira again, and the rest of them. That was
This
really,
isn't The
really well
Rock's YouTube channel, man. This isn't about tequila.
Yeah, well, I wish I had some. So.
No, I agree with you, Gio. And I know there's another theory out there, and I'm sure Brian will touch on it. I do think
I didn't deep dive into that. I'm actually, it's funny because I didn't think about this until you guys started talking about it. I focused more on the ritualistic aspect of doing the quest and getting the stick, and that the gaffy sticks are now just not these weapons. They are like the Kalikori almost,
Gaffy stick.
or the Twi'leks. Like it's a birth. Well, I don't want to say a birthright, but it's like a important symbol. I didn't look so much into the vision as that you guys did, as I did more like the symbolism of getting one of those sticks from this tree and turning it into a gaffy stick and type stuff. So no, I'm actually kind of just listening to your guys' stuff.
I mean, that's just as important.
Yeah.
I know there's another theory, and Maddie brought it up in the chat. There's a lot of people talking about this, that it like the tree represented his family tree, because he's never really had a family, right? He's never really met his family. His father was taken from him when he was very, very young. He's obviously a clone. I, for one, am with Gio. I kind of think it's like his past has been suffocating him, and now he has to find a way to escape his past, because of it has led him nowhere. It has led him to a place where he hasn't gotten anything, right? He's still alone in the galaxy, just doing someone else's bidding. And that tree is what is suffocating him. Tree / Sarlacc pit. And breaking that branch and breaking free of the tree is essentially like a fresh start into something new. And I know Stardew said it, but the great word is reborn. I think it's a great word for this. Is being reborn into something different. The Boba Fett that we now know of, who we met in The Mandalorian, who he seemed menacing, he seemed fearless. He is on a different path, and he said it in the show, right? He wants to rule with respect, not fear. That's not the Boba that we've known all these years. It's a very different type of character, and we are seeing how he has gotten there through the Tusken Raiders, through this kind of soul-searching mission that he's been doing, and then the very end of the episode, and we'll get to the Pikes to finish things up, but the ritual of him joining, and I forget the actual term in real life of the dance that they do, but
like
a haka, there you go. Yeah, so they do their own version.
More of a warrior dance.
It's like their version of it, essentially. I believe
tribal dance.
Yeah, it's like a tribal dance, a tribal, and I thought it was beautiful. I thought it was very well done. And again, this isn't stuff we usually see in Star Wars. This is not what we usually see in Star Wars, and it's touching on that culture aspect of everything, and it's truly beautiful to see. Like it's a really, really beautiful thing to see.
And it's funny because they've never done this, and people are loving it.
Yeah.
And it's something completely new.
Yeah.
Like people, Star Wars especially, people get very bitchy when they do new things. Like people want their classic Star Wars. And it's showing like you don't have to have freaking Luke Skywalker every time doing a mission. You can literally focus on a species, give us history of this, and people are going to eat it up.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, it was amazing. It was, obviously written and done by Favreau, who loves it. And, but it was shot and done by this director that hasn't done anything major. And it's an amazing episode. It's, to me, almost kind of like, I'm like, what can get better than this? Like, anything better than what we just saw is great. But like,
and you know what's so funny? Like, to kind of like pick off of that is, we are talking about something that in reality, as it's incredibly important, obviously, right? Like, it's important to the character of Boba Fett, to his journey, but it's 5 years in the past. Like, this isn't even where the story is going. This is just like filling gaps. And this is what we care about the most at the moment.
It's so funny that you just said that, because my friend I'm in group chat with two of them, and they were like, "Who's the Wookiee?" Blah blah blah. Explained that to them, and then one of them asks me, he goes, "How close are they following the comics?" I said, "They're not following the comics. They are literally grabbing people from comics and books and putting them into a completely blank slate time period." I said, "There's no stories other than maybe a comic or a book here and there."
Well, yeah, they're creating the story.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah.
And I told him, I said, there is nothing between 6 and 7. All of this is new. They are just grabbing characters. And he's like, holy crap. Like, I thought they were following closely to the comics. That's that good. People were.
This is what's in Jon Favreau's brain.
Exactly.
This is
And
just what,
I mean, that's the level of storytelling that's being told, that people think that they are following a blueprint in comics or books.
it's just told that well.
Yeah,
it's
it's mind blowing.
All right, I'll go ahead, Gio. Go ahead.
Just real quick, to touch on what Brian said about this director, Steph Green, who, you know, hasn't really done much, but delivered something truly impressive. That's the beauty of, you know, what Lucasfilm is doing with these shows. You know, you got these veterans in Filoni, Favreau, and Rodriguez who can, you know, help shape the story and the show. And then you bring in these directors, filmmakers with, you know, not as much experience, but now they have something to their name, something
Look
on
at
their
Deborah
resume.
Chow. Did she do anything really?
Yeah,
before?
she did some stuff. What I was gonna say, I was gonna say Bryce Dallas Howard.
Yeah.
Nobody thought she could direct, right? But then she's directed 2 killer episodes for The Mandalorian.
Mm-hmm. And last thing, the whole tree sequence, I think that plays directly into how Boba commands now that he, you know, is running things at Mos Espa. If that doesn't happen, I think we see a totally different Boba Fett as a ruler.
100%.
So just
Agreed. Agree with you, Gio. Before we move on to the Pikes, I want to bring up this question from John. You don't think the stories will converge and Tuskens will be part of the final battle in the finale?
100%.
Tuskens will absolutely.
I do too, but I will say this: I am very terrified that it'll end in tragedy for them.
See, I'm the opposite. I think that we are going to see Tuskens start to work their way into
civilization.
Yes,
I hope so. Like, I really do hope so, but I am a little scared that it might end in some heartbreak.
I mean, I could absolutely see that, but I'm starting to see hope in maybe these Tuskens now are going to not be these sand dwellers that people fear that they might start.
Do we see a Tusken without the mask on?
Yes. The chief, I think.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. See, I was going to say the warrior.
Yeah, one of those two. That's fair.
By the way, that warrior dude, Rex. God.
Man.
That dude is badass.
Pulling the pikes down from the train.
That dude is badass. Speaking
or female, you don't know.
Nah, dude, he is. Give me more of that guy. I can see that guy kick ass all day long. Let's talk about the final big thing about this episode, and we can kind of get into some theories a little bit. But the Pikes, we see that they are the ones running the train. They are running spice through Tatooine, and the whole goal of the episode, at least in the past sequence, was to stop the train. And Boba successfully did so alongside his fellow tribe mates and stop the Pikes from running through Tatooine for the moment, anyway. We see them without their helmets on. And this obviously opens up a lot of possibilities on what can happen with the Pikes in this past storyline. Is it the Pike Syndicate? Could it be another syndicate? I know a lot of people have talked about it online. It's very, very interesting. Let's open this conversation up before we wrap up here, guys. Pikes, Brian, I'll let you start because you're the Pike guy. You've been wanting to see these for a very long time. What did you think about involving them, seeing them, the idea of them running spice through Tatooine now? What do you think?
I love how, of course, the freaking thing.
I didn't know this. Is the warrior female?
That's why I said possibly she. People are
I didn't
thinking
know
that's
that.
female.
Oh, I love that. I
That'd be
love that if
great.
she is.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So
What if?
No, I know that lady that comes in on the bike.
On the speeder bike.
People are saying that, but they don't. I'm iffy on it because I kind of don't want to see just some basic, not basic. I shouldn't say basic. Just some regular like white.
Here you go. That is cool. That is cool.
Oh, there you go.
She was Wonder Woman's stunt double, bro. That's cool.
I don't know. I kind of just don't want to see white people underneath the Tusken Raider.
Okay, that's fine. But anyway, Pike Syndicate stuff.
And yeah, but so I love it. I like what they did because the Pikes could either come back in a fury and just attack, or they could maybe be held because of the fact, now granted, they destroyed their train and whatnot, but they let them live. And they didn't steal they didn't steal the train. The train just sat in the desert.
They probably rummaged through anything that was not spice.
Yeah, but they didn't kill them. And all he said was, hey, this is the Tuscans' land. The next time you go through it, all you need to do is just pay a toll or whatever the word was.
Right.
That's it. He let them live. So now, with the history of the Pikes, you mess with the Pikes tend to strike back. So
nice pun there.
I don't even know where the pun is.
Like the Pikes strike back.
Oh, huh.
Empire Strikes Back.
Whoa, Brian, that one
flew right over the head. I mean, the Pikes are not known as your like friendly neighborhood gang. Like you mess with them, they will come for you. So I would assume maybe that's going to probably play into the line. But yeah, I loved that it was a Pike train. Did not expect that for a second. Not in the slightest. And we got to see their face. And I think that was cool because now we have more like people are going to know that they're not just the little robot faced people. First time we've seen a Pike's real face in live action. So yeah, I love it because the Pikes have been for so long, since I can remember, talked about but never shown. And now they're starting to actually use them and more than just solo in books. So yeah, I'm very curious to see. I'm like 75-25, 75 that they'll come back and attack. 25 they might help at some point.
Yeah, I'm excited to see where the story goes. Obviously a lot of mystery behind it. If it is in fact the Pike Syndicate, if it could be possibly something more. We don't know what the Pike Syndicate looks like at this time. They were obviously very powerful in between 3 and 4. As we saw them in Solo, and then in the Clone Wars, they were also very present.
And they still have Kessel, because he said
they still do have it.
Yeah,
and so it's I'm very curious to where that story goes. I do think we'll see them again. It would make sense. You wouldn't introduce the Pikes. You wouldn't use practical effect Pikes if you're not going to use them again, right? Like you don't make that just for one scene. So I'm excited to see them back. I think they're very cool. They're a very cool alien species that isn't used enough, in my opinion, because they are very menacing. And we saw them in the Clone Wars a lot. They are pretty menacing. But yeah, I'm very curious on where it ends up and what happens, whether it's against or with. Gio, what about you, man? Did you like the addition of the Pikes? I know you're very unfamiliar with them, but thoughts on all that?
Yeah, to my knowledge and memory, I mean, I can't remember if I've seen the Pikes before. I mean, I may have.
Solo.
But
so they went to where they freed the Wookiees in Solo. That was held by Pikes.
I need to watch Solo again.
They were the ones with the like robot face, and then they had the two like notches that were right here.
Right.
They were the ones that were controlling
Gio, if you watch Clone Wars and Rebels, you'll see Pikes.
I need to watch
I'm just
Solo
kidding.
too. As
Oh,
well.
in season 7 of Clone Wars, they were the ones that had those ginormous like crowns that were like coming out the sides. There's 3 different looks for them. They're the one we just saw, the like metal faced, and then they have like the more fancier ones are the ones that have like the crowns that kind of come to the side like
How did
this.
these guys compare to the Nihil?
They're nowhere near the Nihil.
Yeah, the Nihil.
Oh, okay, so Nihil are bad.
I mean, well, so essentially, what you can look at the Pike as is they are the top drug runners in the galaxy.
They're another crime syndicate.
That's they run spice, and spice is the ultimate drug, essentially.
Yeah. Gotcha.
So,
only thing I will say, because I don't have too much knowledge with this, is that Boba, this could be one of those decisions that comes back and bites you later. You know, if you do happen to get one up on the twins at some point, maybe the twins reach out to the Pikes or something, you know, or like, hey, I heard you had some trouble, and you know, like the enemy of my enemy is my friend, and then boom, there you go. And all of a sudden you got Tuskens and Pikes at it again. And so I'm just concerned that this would be a decision that comes back at Boba. I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, I'm curious on where it goes. There's a lot of things, obviously, there's still left to be answered. I'm sure next week is going to be all out crazy now that the Hutts are involved, now that we have Krrsantan. You know, the Tusken Raiders are a little bit more equipped now. The involvement of the Pikes. There's a lot of things that are happening currently. Yeah, it's leaving us very excited for what the possibilities are. We have 5 episodes left. And it already feels like it's kind of getting into the nitty-gritty, which is nice. It's nice that we're kind of getting to the thick of it very, very soon. So, all right, boys, any final thoughts before we wrap up today?
Loved the runtime.
Me too. Got to keep that up.
I was like, when I first saw it, I was like 50 minutes. Holy crap! Like, I was like, I'm gonna be late for work if I need to.
I want more, just like it. I want more, just like it.
Yeah, it was perfect. I went from like okay, we'll see next week to like, is it Wednesday yet? Like, and I cannot wait. Cannot wait.
I wouldn't be surprised if it was the twins who hired the Nightwind assassins. Because how do they show up the very next day as if they were expecting the job to be done?
Agreed.
What a coincidence.
I'm with you. I'm with you on that one. I'm sure we're going to know a lot more after next week. But for now, everybody, that's going to wrap up this week's Fandalorian Club. Thank you guys so much for joining us, hanging out, talking with us. We love the chitter chatter in the comments. We appreciate it. Kyle Beckwork, thank you so much for the super chat as well. Before we wrap up, I'll let the gentlemen kind of plug their own little stuff quickly before we wrap up. Brian, kick us off.
Certain point of view, if you are into movie trivia in the Schmodown with this guy, not that one, this guy, but yeah.
Gio?
Fandom United, where I talk about things that I'm pretty much interested in. A lot of DC talk. So, yeah, check me out there.
Yeah, and Whiskey Jedi for myself, outside of POV. I'm actually jumping over and doing an episode with Sean Sullivan in 20 minutes, talking more Boba Fett, but also kind of talking Star Wars in general in 2022, having a glass of whiskey and hanging out with my bud over there. So make sure you check that out. Join us. Come hang out, chitter chatter in the comments. But for now, that wraps up the Fandalorian Club, everybody. Thank you guys so much. Again, as always, make sure you guys are staying here for Apocalypse Now every Tuesday at 7 o'clock Pacific. You know, have fun watching Boba. Have fun over the weekend, and we'll catch you guys next week. Thanks again, guys.